Hello, my name is Monica Ketchum, and today I will be presenting a policy brief drafted by the Military Families team. Combating veteran suicide in rural communities, focus on Northern Arizona. Contributors to this project included myself, Dana Marchand, Lisa Nikolic, and Joseph Weber. According to a 2018 report published by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, Veterans Health Administration, and Office of Mental Health and Suicide, 22 veterans died today by suicide. Let that sink in. Not only are 22 veterans lost to suicide each day, but 22 families of veterans are permanently affected. It affects their military brothers and sisters. It affects their communities. It affects our nation. Our team believes that we can change the statistic and break the stigma for veterans seeking help. Rural communities are among the most at risk for veteran suicides, due in part to lack of access to comprehensive mental health services that the VA provides in large cities throughout the U.S. According to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, over 7% of Arizona's 7 million residents, or 500,000 individuals, are veterans. While the majority of veterans in the state reside in the Phoenix area, over 26,000 live in rural northern Arizona. The VA has worked to expand services to the area, but in order to combat veteran suicide, more must be done. Battles et al. 2011 noted that the invisible wounds that veterans bring home, most notably post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and traumatic brain injury, TBI, often manifest as behavioral changes and suicidal ideation. Military families routinely cope with stresses that civilian families typically do not, including long periods of separation, frequent moves, and the uncertainty of whether a spouse will return home from their job. When veterans return home physically healthy but carrying mental trauma, family dynamics change and relationships become strained. According to a 2015 study by the Watson Institute for International and Public Affairs, the emotional scars veterans carry lead to higher rates of divorce, domestic violence, depression, and suicide as compared to the civilian population. In fact, incidents of child abuse are 3 times the national average. A 2015 study by Kang et al. Reported that suicide rates for deployed veterans was 41% higher than the suicide rate for the civilian population. Combating veteran suicide is challenging, even under the best circumstances. Peace, Bellera, and Gerard 2016 and Wolf et al. 2018 found that first among the challenges is military culture itself. Principle-based codes such as honor, sacrifice, strength, and soldier-to-soldier bonds are ingrained in daily military life. No matter their status, active duty or not, military culture remains a part of the soldier. Kim et al. 2011 and Mishara, Howell, and Lavoie 2005 noted that service duties related to combat cause mental anguish and deep-rooted stigmas that prevent veterans from seeking mental health support. The aforementioned issues of PTSD and TBI are exacerbated by military culture and stigmas related to mental health. Perhaps the greatest challenge for the population we are focused on is access to services. Veteran families living in rural areas are especially prone to higher levels of suicide, due in part to the fact that they don't have easy access to VA resources and/or are living without an established support system. According to Mohat et al. 2018, an increase of support programs to this underserved population of veterans right here in rural northern Arizona is needed to reduce the incidences of suicide and promote better mental health in general for both veterans and their families. What's working now? Well, the VA has launched a suicide awareness campaign and currently provides a 24-hour crisis hotline to those who are dealing with suicidal thoughts and other mental health issues. The VHA also provides counseling over the telephone to try and reach those in rural areas. Take et al. 2017 noted that some rural communities also have local veteran support groups, and others have online communities where vets can chat and share resources. What's missing from the picture? The bottom line is that veterans who live in rural communities simply do not have the type of access to mental health care resources compared to those that live near veteran hospitals, as reported by Take et al. 2017. Fisher et al. 2016 noted that this may be due to lack of transportation, limited resources, military culture, or personal feelings about seeking help, not to mention general skepticism of the VA. Veterans Affairs agrees that we need a systematic change in our approach to rural veteran populations in order to increase access to mental health services. This different approach will focus on wraparound support for the family and new innovations in treating mental health in military veterans. Furthermore, Take et al. 2017 noted that for those who rely on VA clinics that offer limited services, they usually have to seek treatment at non-military clinics where providers may not understand military culture. This means that they often go without diagnosis or treatment as they shut down and don't communicate their needs. Our team identified a problem in our local veteran community and shared what is currently working and what is missing. Now I'd like to discuss our recommendations for the rural Northern Arizona Veterans Service Area. The VA National Suicide Data Report suggests that intervention and preventative care should be expanded in creative ways and new directions. Woodward et al. 2018 suggested that by directing the support program's focus from individual-based programs to whole family programs, we can create an environment that cultivates positive change. Establishing positive, long-lasting support for veterans suffering with PTSD or TBI can decrease the incidences of suicide and increase the quality of familial relationships. Looking at the big picture, it is imperative that support services be expanded for veterans and their families. The Suicide Prevention Resource Center recommends a holistic approach to suicide prevention for veterans that involves identifying and assisting at-risk veterans and providing self-help tools. We realize that offering a full range of services is challenging for rural communities with limited resources. However, ensuring that veterans in rural Northern Arizona have greater access to mental health services from providers who understand military culture and creating support networks and programs will address many of the problems veterans currently face. First and foremost, we propose providing training in cultural competency to local primary care and behavioral health providers in the rural Northern Arizona region that specifically addresses military culture, as we believe this will reduce the stigma associated with help seeking for mental health issues. According to the Suicide Prevention Resource Center 2019, when health providers understand the specific challenges facing their clients, they will be better prepared to diagnose and treat mental health issues. Developing cultural competency training that is specifically focused on military culture will help medical professionals gain the trust of veterans so that they will be more likely to receive the treatment they need. If just one doctor gains the trust of one veteran, the process of healing the community will begin, as their reputation will spread by word of mouth throughout the veteran community. While establishing more VA mental health facilities or relocating more mental health practitioners to rural communities is not likely, we propose supporting expanded mental health services for veteran families through marketing the existing VA programs. These services include the Veterans Crisis Line, a telephone and text hotline that offers crisis counseling and referrals 24/7. Shane 2019 reported that as of March 2019, These services have been enhanced and a concerted effort is being made to make veterans and their families aware of the resources. Although information about these is available through the VA and at facilities that serve veterans, which are usually located in larger towns and cities, veterans in rural communities may not be fully aware of the services available to them, particularly those who were not recently discharged. Our We've Got Your Six campaign will use military lingo to connect to veterans throughout rural northern Arizona. Growing up in a rural community myself, I know that trips to larger towns is often on a monthly basis for shopping, appointments, etc. Therefore, our marketing campaign will focus on posters placed in high traffic areas such as post offices and ads in the newspapers serving the rural communities in northern Arizona, including the Northern Arizona Gazette, Kingman Daily Miner, Navajo Times, White Mountain Independent, and Arizona Daily Sun. Many of the newspapers also have online versions that will reach a broader audience. A 30-day print and online ad in the Arizona Daily Sun, the most widely circulated, runs about $76, a reasonable investment to raise awareness. Because this is a public service campaign, we believe that we'll be able to negotiate the rates for the Sun and other newspapers to make a significant impact with our $2,500 budget that we've earmarked for marketing and outreach. We'll also be leveraging opportunities to advertise quarterly around special issues that have a military, veteran, or patriotic focus, such as Memorial Day, Veterans Day, Independence Day, and President's Day. Mental health providers who have experience working with veterans and military families will be invited to sponsor ads to offset costs in exchange for including their practice in the ads. Again, military culture is distinct, and both veterans and their families need therapists and outreach coordinators who can relate to their unique culture and experiences. Finally, we propose creating support groups and programs outside mental health facilities. Battles et al. 2018 and Purcell et al. 2018 found that soldier-to-soldier peer empowerment groups, spousal and family support groups, spousal education for suicide prevention, self-forgiveness strategies, and grief support through faith-based and community organizations can assist veterans in seeking help. These types of programs are common on military bases. However, once the transition from military to civilian life occurs, similar programs are not readily accessible. According to Grant, Olson, Madden, and Ballard, 2015, neutrally located, family-centered support programs for veterans in rural areas would provide them with access to programs that prevent suicide, address mental health issues, empower the individual and the family together, create a sense of belonging, decrease the lingering feelings of stigma, and increase the quality of life for the entire family unit. Each community is different, but our goal is to reach out to local organizations within each community, establish relationships with programs on military bases for ongoing support, and assist communities in creating at least one support group or program focused on military families. Modern technology will enable veterans who are homebound or who cannot travel to meetings participate. Our group used Zoom for our weekly meetings and found that even the free program allowed us to host video chat meetings using multiple platforms, whether it was an iPhone, iPad, PC, Android, etc. Our budget for creating these support groups is $7,500 to be spent on training and outreach. Once the support groups are created, additional funds may be needed to purchase equipment such as webcams for Zoom meetings, etc., just depending on the group. How can we do this? In a nutshell, by tapping into existing resources and applying for grant funding. One key strategy will be to work closely with community partners throughout rural northern Arizona. The Arizona Coalition for Military Families has experience in establishing military and community-based participation for off-site family and peer support groups. They know what works and what doesn't, and will be an important partner as we create support groups and programs throughout the region. We will also focus on increasing the services provided by faith-based organizations in the rural northern Arizona region to include military-specific ethical and moral support resources for veterans. As servicemen and women leave the military and settle into civilian life, these community-based organizations will help them integrate into their new communities while providing the support they need. Training curricula for support groups is available free of charge through the Suicide Prevention Resource Center. Establishing programs and marketing services will not be free. However, we believe that working with a modest budget of $10,000 to initiate the support groups and raise awareness about resources available to veterans and their families is achievable, especially if we leverage community resources. That said, grant funding can be obtained to offset the costs associated with marketing and support groups through a number of suicide prevention grants. For example, suicide prevention grants are available through the Rural Veterans Health Access Program from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration. And, as Shane 2019 noted, in March of this year, the President signed an executive order to expand suicide prevention efforts among veterans. The President's Roadmap to Empower Veterans and End a National Tragedy of Suicide, or PREVENTS, is an initiative that will invest in community-based programs. Grant funding is expected to be included in the upcoming budget. In closing, it's time for action. Veterans in rural northern Arizona have sacrificed for us, so now it's time for them to get the care they deserve. We believe that we have a plan to combat veteran suicide that is viable and sustainable, but we need to take action now. Through community partnerships and an interdisciplinary approach, we can get veterans and their families the care they need. Thank you for your time. We look forward to working together to create programs that support our veterans and their families. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me.